On News Hour tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari signs 2022 budget into law, raises concern over adjustments by National Assembly. Doctors in Zamfara overwhelmed by treatment of victims of banditry. Protests in Kwara over neglect of collapsed bridge. And on the foreign scene, tens of thousands flee as Colorado wildfires burn hundreds of homes. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Hour. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. The news in full. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday signed the 2022 appropriation bill of 17.127 trillion naira into law. The president also signed the 2021 finance bill. The appropriation bill, titled Budget of Economic Growth and Sustainability, was signed at a brief ceremony attended by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, and the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed. The report.
Speaking at the event, President Muhammadu Buhari said the 2022 budget provided for aggregate expenditures of 17.127 trillion naira, an increase of 735.85 billion naira over the initial executive proposal for a total expenditure of 16.391 trillion naira. The president explained that 186.53 billion naira of the increase, however, came from additional critical expenditures that he had authorized the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning to forward to the National Assembly.
The 2022 budget that I just signed into law provides for aggregate expenditure of 17.127 trillion naira, an increase of 735.85 billion naira over the initial executive proposal for a total expenditure of 16.391 billion naira. 186.53 billion naira of the increase, however, came from additional critical expenditures that I had authorized the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to forward to the National Assembly.
The president also expressed strong reservations on the worrisome changes made by the National Assembly to the 2022 executive budget proposal. He announced that he would revert to the National Assembly with a request for amendment as soon as the Assembly resumes to ensure that critical ongoing projects cardinal to the administration do not suffer a setback due to reduced funding.
The fiscal year 2022 is very crucial in our efforts to complete and put to use critical agenda projects, as well as improve the general living conditions of our people. It is in this regard that I must express my reservations about many of the changes that the National Assembly has made to the 2022 executive budget proposal. Some of the worrisome changes are as follows. A. Increase in projected federal government independent revenue by 400 billion naira, the justification for which is yet to be provided to the executive. B. Reduction in the provision for sinking fund to retire maturing bonds by 22 billion naira without any explanation. C. Reduction of the provisions of the non-regular allowances of the Nigerian Police Force and the Nigerian Navy by 15 billion naira and 5 billion naira respectively.
While fielding questions from State House reporters, Senate President said nobody should worry about some of the observations raised by the President, as he was happy with majority of what the National Assembly had done.
The driving force is our ability in the National Assembly, in the two chambers, to work very amicably and productively. And then, of course, our ability as a National Assembly, as an institution, to work with the executive arm of government in such a manner that the processing of the budget estimates, as will be led by the President all the time, are done in such a way that every arm of government, all the two arms, participate fully at the appropriate time.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, reacting, said there will be enough time to work on 2023 budget as mentioned by the President.
Every year's budget is an improvement on the last one. So the transition budget which the President spoke about, as you heard him earlier, they're even going to bring it earlier in 2023, which gives us ample time, more time to work on it, improve on it, and make it a seamless budget with seamless execution and implementation. I don't think I have a problem with 2023. 2023 budget is going to come, it's going to go, and we're going to work on it, just like we've been working on the other budgets.
In an earlier interview, development economist Dr. Bello Ngawa dissects the budget provisions and its likely impact.
You know, budget deficits are usually created when you do not have enough revenues to cover the planned expenditure. Now, in this case, the planned expenditure amounts to about 17.13 trillion naira. But the total revenue collectible by the federal government. Usually the explanation about borrowing to really finance deficits in all the budgets so far as we have seen is to be able to accommodate and be able to finance priority projects, especially infrastructure development that the government has been actually implementing over the past few years. Now, but what is the problem is that normally people quote the government at least tries to explain away the borrowing in terms of ratio to the GDP, which is still within the ceiling that is assumed to be tolerable. But many commentators actually look at the revenue to the deficit ratio, and so on. Or, but in this case, what is even more interesting for me is that the expenditure structure, the expenditure profile itself, is what is the basic problem. If you look at the expenditure profile, it is the recurrent expenditure, which amounts to about 6.9 trillion, that eats away the core revenue of government that comes from oil and from taxes, which comes to about less than 6.9 trillion. So it means, in essence, government has to even borrow to finance some of the gaps that we have noticed in the recurrent expenditure. That is the core revenue of oil and taxes cannot even finance the recurrent expenditure. So to my thinking, actually it is the recurrent expenditure that needs to be better managed. About 4.8 trillion, or is it? About 4.2 trillion of personnel cost, and another 2.8 trillion as overheads, making about 6.9 trillion. That eats away the core revenue that the government expects from oil and taxes.
But the main fear...
The fact that government has been trying to emphasize the collection of tax revenue, but nonetheless, the recurrent expenditure put aggregately has consumed all the core revenue. So the rest of the revenue comes from things like independent revenues, which are actually surpluses from agencies, and also surpluses and some dividends that government is likely to collect. That adds up to the total revenue of about 10.8 trillion. Now from 17.1 to about 11 trillion, you see there's a deficit of about 6.3 trillion. Now that 6.3 trillion government envisages to finance it through extra borrowing. About 5 trillion, both external and domestic borrowing, and about trillion that they expect to make a drawdown from existing committed loans. So that makes about 6 trillion, 6.3 trillion. 5 trillion naira equivalent of new loans, and 1 trillion to be drawn down from existing lines of credit. So, but what is the impact of this kind of deficit? Usually deficits actually expands the economy. And actually, such kind of deficits actually account for much of the growth that we see in the Nigerian economy over the years. Now, again, it's not just the simple plain vanilla deficit financing that causes inflation. When we look very carefully, to me, substantial part of the Nigerian budget traditionally has been an inflationary budget because it is monetarily expansionary in the sense that the key sources of the revenue, being oil and largely borrowing recently, comes in foreign exchange proceeds.
All right, so thank you very much for those insights, Dr. Ngawa. We really appreciate that.
When these proceeds are translated into Naira budgets, I wonder where we get the Naira. And that is what explains the source of the inflation. Because actually what is done, CBN provides the Naira, I mean by literally printing the Naira, so to speak.
All right.
So it's not just
all right.
It's almost the entire budget as far as I'm concerned that is inflationary and monetary expansionary.
Right.
So to me, that is what explains the endemic and chronic inflation pressure that Nigerian economy actually suffers.
And still on the budget, a business consultant and public affairs analyst, Wilson Agava, shares his perspective on the 2022 appropriation bill passed into law.
It's been long coming. The president submitted a budget of about 16.3 trillion naira. And today, the budget that was signed is about 17.1 trillion naira with an increase of about 700 billion naira. In the original bill submitted, the oil benchmark was put at about $57 per barrel. The National Assembly jacked it up to $62 per barrel. And some other changes were made there. But all in all, I think I saw a report that the president also was displeased with some of the changes made, and he has said he's going to send in an amendment with time. But basically, if you look at the breakdown, we have about 3.88 trillion to service our debt. It's something that we owe. We must pay them. Wherever it has gone before now, we cannot discuss that. If that debt was properly harnessed, then by now it should be generating revenue that should pay itself. But I'm mostly concerned about our recurrent expenditure, which stands about 6.9 trillion, as against what is available for capital project, which is 5.4 trillion. For a developing country like ours, with a lot of infrastructural deficit, we should come to a point where our allocation for capital budget becomes the highest on our list. We may need to break down what constitutes our recurrent expenditures so that we can begin to bring it down. I suspect, because I don't have figures to back that up right now, that our civil service is over-bloated. We have people who don't even have job functions. We have people who come there to sign and sit down. We should see how we can put these people to work. We should see how we can create employment in places that we need, like our security agencies. We need more hand. And in the civil services, we should have only people who can do what is needed to be done.
And a cross-section of Nigerians expressed their views on the 2022 budget signed by President Buhari.
That the budget should concentrate more on youth, because among the resources that Nigeria have, we are losing much from the youth, because the youth has not been empowered with capitals to do many things. There are youths with more ideas, so I advise the president that the budget should rely much on youth, because most of the problems are coming from the youth, and it will still go back to the youth. That's all.
You know, say this budget is not the issue of us, even I say them do budget, but they not carry our country money, go and spend it for I don't know how to explain the board. Go and spend it for any movie.
For their own personal.
Yes, for new budget. But we are supposed to spend it in security. For this Nigeria, we are facing a problem of security in this Nigeria.
I saw the news on television that Mr. President have signed a budget of 17 trillion naira. So for we as the youth of the Nigeria, we have to say something about our nation. At least we need security. That is the first thing we need in this country, because there is no security. When you are traveling from Abuja to Kaduna here, you will see that the road is very narrow. When you can't even travel in the night like before, you know. And it's APC regime. We vote for Buhari. We was suggesting that we was thinking that Buhari is going to do something for the youth, at least we the young youth of the Nigeria.
Nigerian Medical Association, Zamfara State Branch, wants the federal government to deploy adequate resources to fight insecurity in the country, especially in Zamfara State. Chairman of the association, Dr. Manir Bature, stated this in an interview with Trust TV in Gusau. Bature said that medical doctors are overwhelmed with the treatment of victims of bandit activities in the state, pointing out that medical facilities in the state received huge number of victims and with inadequate health personnel.
We are the medical community, because we are the one that has seen the real impact of this banditry, treating the victims. And there's no day that will pass without medical community receiving victims of this banditry. Even very recently, we've had a large number of victims, including security personnel. And like I said, we are actually disturbed. Number one, we are overwhelmed. Number two, we are incapacitated in such a way that you see people who only should have tracked down to the community level based on their history to address their mental health needs. But because of the way the cases are coming, too large to even manage, what you do is just to address the emergency needs, you understand, and continue. If it's a one patient coming, based on history, you will not discover no. This one and his family need psychological support to be able to prevent mental health problems. But because they keep coming from all angles and with little human resource, you understand, you will not be able to deliver the services. So one thing that government needs to do is to face this issue squarely and address it, so that the effect also can be minimized.
Bandits on Friday stormed Meredi village in Gusau, Zamfara State, and kidnapped a wife of a lecturer with the Federal College of Education, Gusau, Abdurazak, and his two daughters, Mariam Abdurazak and Hafsat Abdurazak. Reports say many properties, including money, were looted in the Meredi community, an outskirt of the state capital. Some of the neighbors of the lecturer said the bandits stormed the house with sophisticated weapons and began to shoot sporadically. Meanwhile, police in Niger State has arrested one Umar Muhammad, popularly known as Babu Gayalo, age 26, of Gujape area of Beji village, Boso local government area, for suspected kidnapping, and recovered 6 locally made guns in 2 separate operations in the state. The Police Command Public Relations Officer DSP Wasio Abiodun stated this in a statement, noting that the suspect confessed to have belonged to a group of bandits who specialize in cattle rustling and kidnapping for ransom, and also mentioned other members of the gang all presently at large. Similarly, police patrol team attached to Zungeru division while on routine patrol along Zungeru Mina Road intercepted and arrested one Musa Yakubu, aged 20, of Company Wire village via Kwantagura, riding an unregistered Bajaj motorcycle, and in his possession 6 locally fabricated guns without cartridges were found. During interrogation, he claimed to have bought the guns from someone he did not know, but also resided in Company Wire village. Kaduna State Schools Quality Assurance Authority on Friday shut down 2 Islamia schools indefinitely over alleged rape of a 6-year-old girl and impregnating of another. The overseer of the authority, Idris Aliu, who shut down the Islamia school in Rigasa, explained that the school authority covered the violation of a 6-year-old girl within the school premises, and the school claimed ignorance of the incident. One of the schools, Madrasatul Ulumul Diniya wa Tahfizul Quran, located in Rigasa, was closed over the alleged rape of a 6-year-old girl in the school premises, while the other Islamia school, located at Tsoho Masallacin Juma'a in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State, closed following an alleged impregnating of a 12-year-old girl by a 50-year-old teacher at the school. Meanwhile, Governor Nasir Ahmed Al-Rufai has ordered that the Islamia be shut down. Residents and transport unions in Kwara State are protesting neglect of Moro Bridge, calling on the federal government to expedite action on the construction of the alternate bridge, which is under construction. Moro Bridge is in Asa local government area of Kwara State, was constructed during the colonial era and reconstructed 40 years ago, has collapsed, thereby making it impossible for motorists and pedestrians. The report.
Okolo is a popular area in Asha local government area of Kwara State, especially being the loading point where traders moving between Kwara and Oyo states usually board vehicles. Nearly every year, the Kwara State government apply temporary measures on the old Moro Bridge, reconstructed 40 years ago. About 2 weeks ago, the bridge again collapsed, thereby making it difficult for motorists and pedestrians to pass.
I beg government because the road, everything they enter is from here. Yam, plantain, any food from here to Ilorin, all the Kwara State, they go this place, go buy the food. I beg the government make it do it for us. This road, if not they good, I no fee get money for all my parents and then my child. I no get money to spend for my family. If this road is not there.
Although an alternative bridge is being constructed beside the collapsed one, but this seems abandoned. Members of the transport unions in the state staged a peaceful protest calling on the federal government to come to their aid. Representatives of both NURTW and RTEAN say their members suffer, calling for urgent action to be taken.
We hereby appeal to the federal government of Nigeria on the devastating conditions of Moro Bridge that links to the only route to Chikanda, Bosu, Kayama to the border. It is imperative for us to take a drastic action on those deadly roads to forestall future occupants of more death and injury to Nigeria who travel through those entire axes.
On what could be responsible for the delay on the completion of the alternate bridge, the Federal Controller of Works says it has been awarded in 2017 and expected to be completed the following year. According to him, the request for the variations in the contract sum by the contractor has been responsible, as the Federal Ministry of Works is yet to reply.
The Moro Bridge construction was awarded among several others in 2017. And the work commenced immediately. So, and you can see how it's not only at that Moro bridge that we're having construction bridges. We're having that contract at Moro and Ohan. So, and the contractor mobilized and worked until he accomplished all the substructures of the bridge. You can see all the substructures have been completed, remaining the beams and the deck to be completed. Then sometime the contractor requested complained about the rate of the project and requested for new rate. And since then we have forwarded the request to headquarters. Headquarters has been looking at it about considering the needness of the request.
As the people await the response of the federal government, it is expected that urgency be applied, as the bridge presently could be described as a death trap.
You're still watching Trust TV News Hour. Coming up after the break. How children orphaned by insurgency get second chance. This and more after the break. Stay with us. The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State, Malan Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadaria Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still News Hour on Trust TV. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the 2022 Appropriations Bill of 17.126 trillion naira into law. And the Nigerian Medical Association's Zamfara State Branch wants the federal government to deploy adequate resources to fight insecurity in the country, especially in Zamfara State. And in other news, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, says lawmakers will review the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and the 1999 Constitution when it resumes plenary in January. Lawan stated this in a statement which contained his New Year message, which he personally signed, titled, "Let's Keep Faith in Nigeria." He said the promise made to Nigerians with respect to legislative focus have been kept by the 9th National Assembly, noting that the Assembly is focused and will never be distracted from the implementation of its legislative agenda. The Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, which is in its 12th year, has claimed over 37,000 lives and displaced about 2.2 million people. In the education sector, the uprising led to a reduction in the level of student enrollment, a rising record of poor academic performance, departure of academic staff, and destruction of facilities and obstruction of infrastructural development. But a lawyer found a way to give orphans of insurgency a place to thrive by setting up an institution of learning where everything is free. Take a look.
When I was young, I saw my father died. Some bodies come into our house and kill him in my presence when I was young.
I came to Future Prowess when I was 4 years old. I lost my dad to this insurgency in 2009, and that was why I was brought to Future Prowess by my mom, because she can't afford to pay my school fees and that of my brother.
You have to be punctual.
These children take refuge in Future Prowess Islamic Foundation. It is a safe haven for the less privileged and children orphaned by the war waged by Boko Haram against Western education in Borno State, Nigeria. The school was established in 2007. It enrolled 36 students during the conflict that regarded education sinful to its beliefs. The growing population of the school prompted the creation of more classes for nursery, primary and secondary schools in different locations within Maiduguri. Here, academic materials such as textbooks, exercise books, transportation among others are all free. The school also has a feeding program to support nutrition for learning. The children are served meals every session during school hours.
proprietor of the school, Barrister Mustafa, is the only one taking care of my education, my school feeding, and my transportation, because coming to school, we have a school bus that normally brings us from school and then also takes us back home. And then when we come to school in the morning, maybe around 7:30, because school starts normally by 7:30 and then classes start by 8. Come to school by 8. When it's exactly 10 o'clock or 10:30, we go out for break, and then we don't use money to buy food or water or anything eatable, because food has been provided in the school for the breakfast, and then the water and everything is also available. And then later on, when school closes by 2, school bus will take us back home. So my education has been taken care of by the proprietor of the school.
And I am orphan. I started this school when I was young, 9 years old. I started in nursery school up to now. I have friends that make me happy, and Barrister. And he always tell me that do something good, don't do something bad, because life is good to you.
Yes, before I'm even living in Maiduguri, it's just the fact that when I finished my primary school, my father didn't have the power to help me, rather to take all over my education. So I've been hearing about Barrister Zona through all colleagues, what he has done. So I went straight forward to meet him, and I told him wherever I am, my parents cannot help me. So he took all over my education since right from JSS1 up to now that I'm in SS1.
It's been long since we heard about Future Prowess. We thought it was a private school. But after my husband died, we heard the school is for orphans. I went to meet the head of the school. I told him about my children's situation, that they can't continue school. I told him about what I heard about the school. That's why I came to make inquiries. He asked how many children I have that needed to be in school, because my other children had already graduated. I had 3 on ground that needed to be in school. He asked me to bring them the next day. When we arrived, 2 were eligible to be in school, and the other was asked to wait for the... When we arrived, 2 were eligible to be in school, and the other was asked to wait for the following year. He immediately asked the school authority to sew new uniforms for them. They visited Barrister Zaina with their problem, and he decided to enroll them for free. Barrister Zaina does not differentiate between Muslims and Christians.
But who is the brain behind this benevolent intervention?
My name is Barrister Zanna Mustafa. I am a legal practitioner by training, and I am the director of the Future Prowess Islamic Foundation. I set up this foundation some 11 years ago, that is in 2007. I started it with 36 orphans to give them supportive services. And in 2009, there is this insurgency of Boko Haram. that started in this. A lot of children were cast on the street when their parents were killed. So I felt I can intervene now that I'm serving orphans. So I felt I can equally do for these orphans. And when I started, I felt I could also do it for other orphans without necessarily minding the two sides of the debate. Because if you said you are going to serve Boko Haram orphans, then how about the military they fight?
Crushed rock, an abandoned quarry in Papi in the outskirts of Abuja, became a tourist delight after it came to the public attention in the wake of the COVID-19 lockdown of last year. Since then, it has continued to attract visitors. But as Ali Usman found out on a recent visit, there has been a decline in activities at the rock. His report.
For many years, the jewel that we now know as Crushed Rock was just an abandoned quarry until the COVID-induced lockdown and shutdown of public recreational facilities in Abuja turned it into a gem that was discovered when a picturesque image of the rock on the internet went viral and the place became an instant hit. The place has now become an economic hub for freelancers, models, and photographers like exceptional Ubi and Toby Omotayo.
This is Crushed Rock. This is where I earn my living for now. It's a very beautiful place. I've been working in several tourist centers here in Abuja and outside Abuja. But when I saw this place, Crushed Rock, back then this place was filled with a whole lot of feces, cow and human being feces, and the dumplings. So we now few photographers, we were 3, 4, 5 people. We come around. A lot of them were discouraged initially, but along the line, 2, 3 months, people start.
Different type of people come in this place, and some people do come here to shoot, like to shoot movie, musical videos. Before I go for a photographer here, and most time I do come here to work.
Our visit was on the 2022 New Year Eve and activity was low.
Crushed Rock is beautiful and there's no denying it. The story of its beauty has been told both locally and internationally. Yet, it provides opportunities for young people like the photographers we have seen here. But beneath all of that story also lie a discomforting story: insecurity.
What we just need here is like security. We need security here in order to secure the environment and the people who comes around. If that part is played, that means development will definitely come.
The only thing I can beg for government is, please, if they can guarantee security here, by all means, this is the only thing that is bothering this place. Despite that this place is in this interior place and people are coming in, but how much more if they are safe, if they can guarantee their security? That is the only thing that makes this place like this.
There's no ready information about Crushed Rock. However, when we arrived here today, we were lucky to find 2 photographers who told us a little bit about its history and that this body of water here is about 150 meters deep. Yet, no any form of safety lifeguard available here, even though at peak period, the number of people here can be really high. We do know, however, that the blasting activity that happened here began in 1976 when the construction work on the new capital, Abuja, began. Many years later, the ruins of that quarry has become a tourist destination for many people who come here to relax. From the crushed mountain, here at Papi, Ali Usman, Trust TV News.
And to usher in the new year, Nigerians have been reflecting on the challenges they experienced in the outgoing year with optimism that the new year 2022 will bring hope and offer a new beginning. In this report, Trust TV's Bello Musa speaks to a cross-section of residents of Kaduna on the prospects of the new year. The report.
Nigerians had fought many battles in 2021, from insecurity to economic hardship worsened by COVID-19 pandemic. Some of Kaduna residents speak on their experience.
The truth is that most Nigerians now cannot even meet halfway of their needs in 2021. In the past, people used to take time to preserve little for the new year so that they can be able to sustain themselves and their family until things started taking shape.
In 2021, yes, because you cannot sleep with your two eyes. One eye is closed, the other one is open. So I would like to advise them to provide adequate security for the entire citizen in 2022.
The major issue is that of insecurity and what do you call it, the economy.
They also expressed hope that the new year will be better, advising government to improve security and economy.
We pray that it will be better next year. It will be better next year. But for now, the issue of insecurity, if we are able to deal with it squarely, and that of the economy, I think Nigerians will smile.
The government of the day should also expect that Nigerians will look forward for a better 2022 than what we have experienced in 2021. If possible, far better than what we have experienced in 2021. So the expectation will be very, very high, and the government should be able to prepare to live by those expectations.
Kaduna has had its share of difficulties with shutting down of telecommunication and ban on motorcycles to address insecurity.
The new year will be opening a new chapter for many people. It is tradition that at the beginning, New Year resolutions are made personally to improve one's life. The fresh start of a new year is equated with new life and renewed hope that things will be better. Some residents of Maiduguri shared their resolutions for the new year. The report.
At the beginning of each year, many people have vows or resolution. This could be the aspiration to change an undesired behavior and to also accomplish a personal goal or otherwise improve life at the start of the new year. For some Maiduguri residents, they have fresh plans and special resolutions for the incoming 2022.
We are just doing something that is not good in this time. Much especially we are visiting the clubs and we are talking for the ladies that is not good. And we are anything. There is a plethora of this thing that we are doing that is not good.
Last year I didn't pray very well. I live in like one that doesn't know his God very well. But from this month of December, I'm in fasting and prayer, praying that my life will not remain the same.
I used to ignore people in time of sentiment. On a serious note, sentiment, you know, some people that I used to are starting to stay with them, and some people that are other language that I don't use to them, but I think it's not supposed to that the unity of Nigeria will never be negotiable.
I'm not that punctual, you know, I'm struggling with punctuality, yeah, but in my business, but everything I do, I struggle with punctuality, but by God's grace, being this new year, being 2022, I will make sure I stop everything that I do that I don't like. Yeah, I think so, because I believe that it will have a good side effect on me. Yeah.
As we are selling things costly, we don't like it. And we want God to make it so that we sell in a small scale so that people will be able to buy. So it is not our fault. It's the price of the dollar that makes us to sell so costly. We buy in costly, we sell in costly. And this, we have some quarrels in the market. We don't want it. May God make us to stay in peace.
Beside their expectations and plans for the new year, they also hope that the insurgency in Borno State comes to conclusion and return of peace.
Up to now, we never see the end of that insurgency. So I need assistance from the Borno State government and the Nigerian army. And all force, they come and join us to finish this insurgency. End of 2022, if it is possible.
I should say this, I'm a bachelor, so I am hoping to get married next year, if God permits.
To achieve, like I want to buy a land, I want to buy things, I want to buy houses, I want to change my car, and this new year, I have the hope that I will do it because...
Making new resolutions can be much easy, but it all falls on commitment and drafting a to-do list that will guide one to keep such personal vows.
And still on the New Year resolutions are a tradition most people imbibe in the beginning of a new year, whereby they resolve to continue good practices, change an undesired trait or behavior, accomplish a personal goal, or otherwise improve their life. At the start of a new year, all those and persons do not necessarily subscribe to this tradition. Some Abuja residents express their renewed commitment a few hours to 2022.
Very well, I believe on New Year resolution because as a person, there are some other things you want to improve as life is going, and there are several mistakes you do as a person. You see, so in your previous year, you said, okay, this thing I'm doing, I want to change it, and you begin to bring out a list for a normal person who really want to change his life. I come up with a list, I write everything about myself, I review myself, where I'm doing well and the areas where I'm not doing well. Then the areas where I'm not doing well, I said, okay, maybe the coming year I will try and improve in those areas I'm not doing well.
You sit at home and write out your principle. There is every human being have principle and values. Somebody like me, I have principle and values. I sit down and I think and I write my principle and values, what I want, what I don't want to do in the new year. Those things that I know that maybe that will bring me out shamefully. I write it down, begin to try to observe it. And the things that will bring glory, things that will make at least God to at least honor me. I write it down and begin to follow it and work towards it. I begin to pray, at least channel my view and visions and begin to pursue my visions for the year. That's good for everybody that know what is wants in life. Supposed to at least sit down and write his principles, then write his visions out and pursue it. That is for me.
Okay. I've found myself making resolutions several times and end up not keeping them. So I just feel whenever you have a goal to achieve or you have an attitude or a habit you want to get rid of, it mustn't be every new year. You can just decide at any time and get rid of them. It mustn't be new year. There's nothing special about making a resolution in New Year's.
Well, because change is constant and I would like to be a better me.
I don't really believe in New Year resolutions because previously I had set out certain resolutions that, okay, I'm going to achieve this in this new year, 2020, 2019, and at the end of everything, I didn't achieve it.
You're still watching News Hour on Trust TV. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back to Trust TV News Hour. And in business news, federal government has extended the deadline for the National Identification Number Subscriber Identity Module Data Verification to March 31st, 2022. This and more on business with Chamun Dabeng.
Federal government has extended the deadline for the National Identification Number Subscriber Identity Module Data Verification to March 31st, 2022. This is contained in a statement issued by the Director Public Affairs Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) Ike Adinde and Head of Corporate Communications National Identity Management Commission Kayode Adegoke on Friday. The statement said the National Identity Management Commission issued over 71 million NINs with over 14,000 enrollment centers set up across the country, as well as set up enrollment centers in over 31 countries to cater for Nigerians in the diaspora. Federal government says about 80% of agro products from Nigeria that are intercepted and seized by the European Union member nations are exported illegally. The Director General, Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service, Vincent Isegbe, explained that the interception of agricultural exports from Nigeria by EU countries is basically due to absence of the quarantine service in most Nigerian borders. The federal government explained that most of the products were prohibited for exports by the government, adding that people illegally move the items out of the country without clearance by the Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service. Office of the Auditor General for the Federation has issued audit queries against the National Assembly and the National Assembly Service Commission over expenditures amounting to 9.424 billion naira in 2019, which have not been allegedly accounted for.
And on the foreign scene, hundreds of homes have been destroyed and tens of thousands of people have been evacuated in Colorado, United States, after wildfires driven by high winds engulfed two towns near the state capital, Denver. On Friday, residents who were forced out of their neighborhoods by the wildfires anxiously waited to find out what was left, standing after the flames burned an estimated 530 homes, a hotel and a shopping center. Reports say at least 6 people and one first responder have been injured, though officials believe there could be more casualties due to the strength of the fire that quickly swept across Boulder County, with winds gusting up to 169 kilometers per hour, with the National Weather Agency warning of a life-threatening situation in some areas. Meanwhile, authorities ordered evacuations for Louisville, which has about 21,000 residents, and Superior, home to 13,000 people, and a suburb of Boulder. The neighboring towns are roughly 32 kilometers northwest of Denver, a city of more than 715,000 people, where a towering plume of smoke was visible. Governor Jared Polis declared a state of emergency to allow the use of disaster funding to support emergency response efforts and the mobilization of the Colorado National Guard and other state resources as needed. And now for sports news, let's join Adeni Ajishafe.
World Football Governing Body FIFA on Thursday announced that the 2022 World Cup draw will be staged on April 1, 2022 in Qatar. 32 teams drawn into 8 groups of 4 teams each will face off at the global tournament. World Cup will kick off on November 21st and it will be the first time the competition will be played outside the European summer weather. Super Eagles of Nigeria are one of 10 teams who will fight for the 5 slot at the tournament reserved for Africa in March playoffs. Nigeria national female basketball team D Tigress captain Adora Elonu has declared support for the development of the girl child in the society with the aim of working closely with agencies and relevant stakeholders in Enugu State. She made this call at the end of Adora Elonu basketball camp tagged All Dreams Achieved at the Indoor Sports Hall of Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium. CB Girona Spain forward, super excited with the massive turnout and participation at the clinic hints at continuing the progression of basketball in Enugu State and Southeast, and also to encourage girl child to make career in basketball sport.
And before we go, it's already New Year in some countries and the celebration is ongoing. Let's take a look. And that concludes Trust TV News Hour for tonight. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.